Olá, eu sou a Débora Oliveira, sou editora-chefe do IT Fórum e hoje eu estou aqui no SXSW, que acontece essa semana em Austin, nos Estados Unidos. E vários temas que a gente está discutindo aqui falam de inteligência artificial, humanização. E aqui ao meu lado está um convidado super especial, ele é um dos principais palestrantes do evento. O Ian Beacraft, ele é futurista internacional e é conhecido pelas suas análises de inteligência artificial, sistemas autônomos, e como essas tecnologias estão redefinindo não apenas as empresas, mas também as estruturas das empresas, né? E eu estou aqui, né, na Casa São Paulo, no Espaço da Hora, que a gente vai conversar bastante sobre essas temáticas hoje. Thank you very much, Ian.
Muito obrigado.
And he speaks English and Portuguese.
Eu falo muito pouquinho português.
Next time we are going to have this interview in Portuguese.
Entirely.
It's a deal.
Done.
Okay, let's start. Today we had the opportunity to stay together in the morning, another talk that you had, and you talked about AI agents and humans. So, and in 2 days you're going to have your lecture here, your presentation. So, what you're going to present this year that is different from the other year?
Yeah. So the last few years we've been talking about how AI is changing the shape of work. And we as an organization have been spending a lot of time experimenting with how does it actually change what work is, how your organization is designed, and essentially how can we use AI well beyond just productivity and scale and volume and efficiency. So I'll be talking a lot about the specifics of what that looks like and what does an organization look like when you take away humans. And what does that tell us about the way organizations are built today? There are some uncomfortable truths that we're going to have to come to terms with. Give a little bit of a spoiler. It's not that all of our jobs are going to go away, but it is that they're going to change profoundly. And that's going to be very challenging for us to grapple with, and to see what organizations look like in 5 years is going to look very different than they do today when they come to terms with those truths.
That's a very good spoiler. Many years ago, we had, who had the knowledge were the people that did the math and knew how to program. So what is the new sense of nowadays that we are having to get to be a ready professional to the future?
Yes. So the last 25 years, we focused on STEM, math, being able to program. Everyone's like, go learn how to code. And I would argue that that wasn't a bad idea. I don't think that I would tell someone to go learn to program and be a programmer as a job right now, but learning how to code, I would still tell someone, go learn how to code right now, because that teaches you how systems work. And if you become a software engineer and not just a person who writes code, you'll still have lots of valuable skills in the future of work. The challenge I have with the narrative right now is everyone says, well, this is going to replace all of these jobs and all this type of work. And yes, it's going to replace the execution that those jobs are responsible for, but it's not going to change the value of your experience and your expertise and your judgment. When you've spent years really mastering a skill, you understand how that skill is relevant within a certain ecosystem, within a certain industry, within a certain company, with certain expectations. And that creates an understanding of judgment and taste and what essentially becomes wisdom. And that wisdom becomes more important in a world of AI, not less. Specific knowledge becomes way easier to acquire because I can lean on AI to do that. But let me ask you, would you rather have somebody who spent 25 years as a software engineer designing your new system, or some 17-year-old YouTuber who learned how to do it vibe coding, last weekend?
Vibe coding, yeah, for sure.
Right? Yeah, like the 17-year-old knows everything now. I think that wisdom is going to be what creates the systems of the future. We still understand how things interact. And as much as one of the more important things is you understand what doesn't work. So when you can start to see how you would engage AI agents in it, you can already see what the second and third order impacts of those decisions are going to be. And that is the most important skill that we can have right now. Is when you change one thing, you have to be able to understand how it affects the whole system. Most people don't think that way. But when you spent years in a role, you kind of know just from that experience, getting those repetitions of when something changes, something else does. And when you can think about that second order and third order impact, that makes you 10 times more valuable as an employee and as an expert.
That's very cool. And I was thinking about last year, the most sad phrase was people that worked with AI should know about AI, and who doesn't know, it's going to have your job, away. So what do you think about this phrase? Do you think that it's going to be like that in the next year?
I think the phrases like that are really catchy because it's simple, it's easier to remember, but the reality is always far more nuanced than that. I think that there are going to be pockets where you can point to and say, see, it's happening, that's true. And then others where it's not true. I think there are lots of roles where AI won't have as much of an impact right away. And it might be 7-10 years before it does, especially if you work physically and moving. A lot of the popular phrase is if you're moving atoms, you're pretty safe right now. If you're physically interacting with the world. Robotics is on a trajectory as well. So I think that will change over time too. What I do think is that there will be bits and pieces of jobs that completely disappear, not whole jobs initially. And this will take several years for whole jobs to disappear. Granted, ATMs replaced a lot of bank tellers, but that didn't mean that banks went away. Banks actually, there were far more banks now, actually more people employed by banks than at any point in time in history. So it shifts where labor is really important. Certain tasks go away, like the idea of someone physically checking your bank ledger, writing something down and handing it back to you has been replaced, but the need for people to work in banking has not been replaced. And what happens when these things change is we're changing what coordination looks like, execution looks like, kind of separating the layers of what we call the primitives of corporate life. Now, that's a really nerdy way of saying that there are certain things that have to happen for an organization to exist. So if I want to go back to college level economics, the things that matter in an organization are culture, execution. That's based on my expertise, my ability to make something happen, writing that brief, synthesizing information, delivering the keynote, and then there's coordination. What AI makes really cheap and easy now is execution. I can say, hey, AI, help me write that brief, or help me write that document or that presentation. Happens a lot faster. Now, I can do 50 times that amount of work in the same time I used to. But the problem here is it makes that part cheap, but it doesn't remove the bottleneck. It just pushes the bottleneck somewhere else and makes that part expensive. So if you want to figure out where value is going to be, figure out what's scarce and expensive in a world where execution is cheap.
In our audience in IT Forum Brazil, we have CIOs and CEOs, and AI is affecting and is disrupting their jobs and their work every day. So what would you say to them to be ready to the next wave?
Yes. I would say that you and your CHRO have to become best friends because this is affecting everyone on a fundamental level. Like, the one thing is CHROs need more presence on the board, as well as the CTO and CIO have been there since day one. But what's happening is, even your developers, the people in your vertical, are reaching out for help from HR saying, I don't know what my job looks like, my role looks like, I don't know what even work looks like in the future. Now, in the more tech forward professions, they're seeing the changes faster than everyone else. And if you start to build this collaboration across those different types of verticals, one, the people who are closest to those changes get to tell everyone else, hey, I'm your scout, I'm your guide, here's what's happening to us, here's what we're doing in order to make those changes. And then when you can turn that into a way of knowledge sharing and collaboration, it helps everyone else say, oh, okay, yes, this is anxiety inducing. This is a little scary, let's be real. But I see that they're handling this in a certain way that's helping them actually create more value. And they're starting to grapple with it and turn this into a cultural thing that now they understand where their value is and what they can do to change. That then becomes kind of a message and a signal to the rest of the organization. Here's how we're changing. Here's what work matters. And here's here's the behaviors we're rewarding so that everyone can be a part of that transformation. Most organizations right now are saying, hey, we're trying to figure out where we're going to be, and then we'll give you the plan, and then everyone follows that plan. That creates anxiety because your employees are all looking for answers. They're looking to you for what is the North Star, what's the plan. And when there's no crystal clear destination for all of us to go to, that's when everyone else looks elsewhere for answers. They look to the market, which is crashing, and saying, SaaS is gone, which it's not. And then they're looking to the layoffs that are happening. Other companies like, well, we're all going to get laid off too, because the messages are loud from other places and you're quiet. And when you're quiet, they will make up their own narrative, and then that becomes the default narrative. You lost control at that point in time. So what I would say is to IT leaders and to CTOs and CIOs, You need to be working with HR. You need to be working with your CEO to have a crystal clear understanding of where you're going. And even if you don't have a specific answer, make it someplace that says, this is the destination that's forming for us. Here's our hypothesis. Here's our strategy. Because people can then say, you're creating a future that I want to be a part of, and that I can clearly see myself succeeding in. And when they see that, they enlist themselves. You don't have to push them or force them into a direction. They come with you.
Yeah, that's a very good tip. And this morning we talked about time. So AI gives us time, but what we do with this time is a personal question for you right now. What do you do with your personal time?
What do I do with my time? So that's a great question. And statistically, everyone's saying the same thing. I do more work.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know
the same.
I don't know anyone who's like, well, I go home at 3:30 on a Wednesday now, and like I've got all this time. Or
with my friends, family.
Right? That would be beautiful, but as a culture that prizes and values hard work, we tend to do more of it. A lot of that is because we're already overburdened, overstressed, and under-resourced. And AI helps us kind of catch up on the backlog of all the things we're strategically not addressing. The problem, though, is then when that happens, then we say, oh, our capacity just went up. Let's throw some more stuff on there. And that becomes a problem because what it does is allows us to get really good at metrics of a bygone world. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is in a world where everything is knowable, measured, structured, things like capacity, efficiency, effectiveness are metrics that we focus on to build the business. Those are still important. Those will never not be important. But to build the entire organization on those metrics means you're very much an industrial style organization, even if you're a technological organization. In a world where everything is changing around you, you need metrics that encourage exploration, that encourage experimentation. So all of your people, not just a few people, but everyone is invited to push the boundaries of what's possible and explore what the future of work means for them. Because every single person in your organization should be in R&D. They should all be in research and development mode. And if you're just focusing on efficiency and effectiveness, you're telling them experimentation and exploration are punished. They're not only not encouraged, but we will punish you for doing the things that will actually take us to the next generation of our organization.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, last words, what would you say to your Brazilian audience?
I would say this is one of the most anxiety-inducing and also one of the most fascinating times to be alive and also to be at work. I personally grapple with this on a regular basis. I am so excited about what you can build right now, and I'm actually losing sleep because I'm building so much more than I ever thought I possibly could. And the ability for us to expand our capacity and capability is unlike any time in history. So if you lean into this, you can make this a time when you can not just increase your capability, but 10x, 100x your impact in your career, in your company, and in your community. And that's the beautiful thing. This doesn't have to be just for work. It can be for the value you create for others around you. So embrace this moment, lean in. Don't wait for somebody to come and tell you what the blueprint should look like or the roadmap. Be the one who creates it. Be that pioneer who shows the way for others. And that way we can all go together.
Well, thank you very much, Ian, for your time.
Thank you very much.
Bom, e você acompanha aqui toda a cobertura completa do IT Fórum no SXSW no nosso site, itforum.com.br. Até a próxima.